August 6, 1943. Vella Gulf, a narrow corridor of black water pressed between the jungled slopes of Kolombangara and the shadowed ridges of Vella Vella. Past midnight, the Pacific is a sheet of ink wrapped in fog thick enough to erase the horizon. The only sounds are the slow roll of swells breaking against volcanic rock and the distant pulse of engines hidden somewhere inside the mist. Those engines belong to 6 Japanese destroyers slicing through the Gulf at high speed, each one packed with soldiers, ammunition crates, artillery barrels, and drums of fuel lashed to their open decks. Their mission is the same one they have executed for months: race south under the cover of darkness, unload supplies for the isolated garrison on Kolombangara, then escape into the night before the Americans even know they were there. It is a mission their commanders trust completely. The night has always been theirs. Fog and shadow have always protected them. Their Type 93 torpedoes have always guaranteed victory if a surface battle erupts. For 2 years, Japan has ruled the darkness of the Solomon Islands. Kula Gulf, Tasafaronga, Blackett Strait, every midnight battle has reinforced the same truth. No one fights at night like the Imperial Navy. No one aims better in darkness. No one launches deadlier torpedoes. The destroyer captains, moving through Vella Gulf tonight, believe they are invisible, unstoppable, untouchable. But the fog that hides them from human eyes reveals them to something far deadlier. To the west, hugging the coastline of Vella Vella, 6 American destroyers move at low speed, their silhouettes swallowed by the darkness. Their decks are silent, their guns are cold. Their crews stand ready in red-lit compartments that feel less like ship interiors and more like the nerve centers of machines built purely for killing. Inside those compartments, SG radar pulses through the night, sweeping the Gulf in invisible arcs. And on those glowing screens, the Japanese force appears as clean, sharp echoes, one cluster for the transports, one for the escorts, all of them moving exactly where American intelligence and experience predicted they would. On the flagship Dunlap, the radar operator adjusts the gain, watching the fog-shrouded world sharpen into green lines and returning pulses. He sees the enemy before any lookout does. He sees their formation, their speed, their exact course. He watches them approaching a point on the chart where geography itself will trap them. The Japanese think the night is theirs. They do not know the Americans are waiting. It is the night the United States Navy learned to kill in the dark. The wider war has set the stage for this moment. The Solomon Islands campaign has devoured ships and men at a pace neither side can sustain. Every island is a battleground. Every strait is a graveyard. The Japanese Tokyo Express has threaded these waters since 1942, racing through jungle-lined channels to deliver troops that American air power cannot stop. Their night tactics have crippled American cruisers and sunk destroyers with terrifying efficiency. Their torpedoes outrange and outmatch anything the Americans can fire. But the balance is shifting. New SG radar gives American destroyers a vision no human eye possesses. It sees through fog, through rain, through the blackest night. It draws enemy ships on glowing scopes long before they come into gun range. For the first time, American destroyers can fight without ever seeing the enemy. They can strike without revealing their own position. They can end a naval battle before the Japanese even realize it has begun. And tonight, they intend to prove it. The Japanese formation continues down the Gulf with unbroken confidence. Hagikaze, Arashi, and Kawakaze carry the supplies. Yugumo and 2 additional escorts shield them from any surprise. Their captains stare into the mist from open bridges, trusting their lookouts, trusting their torpedoes, trusting decades of doctrine that say the Americans are blind after sunset. But the Americans are watching them in perfect clarity. Dunlap, Craven, and Maury form the forward firing line. Behind them, Lang, Sterrett, and Stack prepare to seal the exit routes. The American formation moves with a coordination born from months of bitter lessons. Engines hum at a steady throttled pace. Torpedo crews work quietly, checking depth settings and gyro angles. The Combat Information Center marks every change in the Japanese bearing. The distance ticks downward: 14,000 yards, 12,000, 10,000. The fog thickens. The Japanese vanish from human sight completely. But not from radar. Inside the American ships, the glowing scopes show everything: perfect arcs of movement, perfect spacing, perfect timing. The Japanese are entering the narrow center of Vella Gulf, the place where an ambush becomes unavoidable, where escape becomes nearly impossible. Geography funnels the enemy into a corridor. Radar gives the Americans full control of it. The ambush is almost ready. The Japanese destroyers surge forward on schedule. They believe the fog protects them. They believe speed protects them. They believe that even if they are detected, their long-range torpedoes will cripple any American ship that approaches. But tonight, the Japanese will never get the chance to fire first. The American destroyers slow to attack speed. Radar teams confirm the final distances. Torpedo officers check bearing lines one last time. Torpedo doors begin to open with soft mechanical clicks that vanish into the sound of the sea. Dozens of Mark 15 torpedoes sit in their tubes with gyros primed, engines ready to ignite the moment they hit open water. The perfect firing solution forms on the plotting tables. Numbers settle into place. Bearings stabilize. The Americans have the enemy exactly where they want them, unaware, tightly bunched, locked inside a narrow kill zone that radar has transformed into a shooting gallery. The Japanese run silently into the heart of Vella Gulf. The Americans hold their breath, and the torpedoes that will rewrite the balance of the Pacific wait only for a single command. For a moment, the Gulf is silent. The fog hangs motionless. The Japanese destroyers surge forward, unaware, blind to the invisible crosshair tightening around them. In the American ships, every man holds his breath. In the torpedo rooms, hands grip steel rails as the hull vibrates softly with the tension of a predator about to strike. The firing solution is perfect, and then the order is executed. A ripple of mechanical clatter echoes through the forward tubes. Compressed air blasts through chambers. Mark 15 torpedoes leap into the Pacific in synchronized volleys, white trails blooming behind them before vanishing into the mist. Dozens of weapons fan out across the Gulf, spreading into the Japanese formation with speeds no human eye could track. For several long seconds, nothing happens. The Japanese destroyers continue racing south as if nothing is different, their captains still trusting the fog, still believing they are alone. On the bridge of Kawakaze, the lookout stares into the darkness, unaware that death is rushing toward them under the surface. On Hagakaze, supply drums clatter gently in the ship's wake. On Arashi, officers lean over maps, lit by dim lamps, calculating the time until landfall. Then, the night explodes. A single torpedo finds Kawakaze first. The detonation erupts beneath her forward boiler room in a column of fire that tears open the sea. The ship's bow lifts out of the water as flame shoots upward through vents and deck seams. Men are thrown from the bridge. The blast shatters bulkheads. Kawakaze loses power instantly and begins to roll even as secondary explosions flash across her deck. Before the shockwave fades, another torpedo slams into Arashi. The explosion splits her midsection, filling compartments with steam and flame. Her rudder jams. The destroyer twists violently, swinging broadside into the path of another American spread. Two more torpedoes strike her within seconds. Arashi's forward deck rises high enough for her propellers to break the surface. Then she collapses and sinks so quickly that some crew are trapped inside sealed compartments with no chance of escape. The fog glows orange and red as fire dances across the waves. Japanese officers yell for evasive maneuvers. But radar has placed them exactly where the Americans wanted them, packed in a narrow corridor where turning is nearly impossible. Their formation disintegrates. Hagikaze tries to accelerate, but another torpedo catches her near the stern. The blast lifts the rear of the ship out of the water like a toy. Fuel drums roll across her deck and ignite. creating a rushing wall of flame that sweeps from stern to bow. Ammunition stored in the aft sections erupts, sending a plume of fire into the thick fog. The Japanese destroyer captains try to fire their Type 93 torpedoes, but the attack has shredded their timing. Their targets are invisible and moving. Their rangefinders see nothing. Their firing angles collapse. They are fighting phantoms. The Americans see everything. Dunlap's radar tracks a new contact turning southwest Yugumo, attempting to escape the kill zone. Craven accelerates, her bow slicing through fog so dense the ship seems to appear and vanish with every swell. Mori swings wide to cut off any path toward open water. The 2nd American Division moves with lethal coordination, each ship positioned exactly where radar data guides it. Yugumo increases speed, trailing smoke, her captain desperate to break free. But American radar draws a clear path of pursuit. Lang and Sterrett converge behind her, engines roaring, guns ready. The first American shells are fired without any visual confirmation. Fire control radar feeds range data to the guns, and they obey. Bright flashes tear through the fog. Tracers vanish into mist. Moments later, explosions erupt across Yugumo's deck. One shell strikes near the forward turret, sending debris tumbling into the sea. Another punches through the bridge. The destroyer staggers under the blows. Still, she fights. She turns sharply, trying to set up a torpedo salvo. But Americans have already shifted course. SG radar anticipates the maneuver. The American ships adjust by fractions of degrees, evading torpedo tracks that never come close. Their guns continue to fire in deadly rhythm. Yugumo slows. Smoke pours from her midsection. Her deck guns fall silent. The destroyer capsizes slowly, rolling onto her port side before slipping beneath the surface, leaving only a smear of oil to mark her grave. In the center of the Gulf, one of the Japanese transport destroyers attempts a last act of defiance. Seeing the line of fire cutting across the horizon, she accelerates toward Kolombangara, hoping to beach herself and save her cargo. For a few seconds, it seems she might escape into the fog, but American sonar pings pick her out instantly. The destroyer Mori adjusts her angle and closes the distance. When she fires, her radar-directed guns strike the target with merciless accuracy. Shells rip into the transport's stern, setting fuel drums ablaze. The fire spreads across the deck until the entire ship becomes a drifting inferno. She never reaches shore. Within 20 minutes, the Japanese reinforcement run is no longer a formation or a threat. It is a scattering of burning hulks, sinking sterns, floating debris, and men struggling in oil-covered water. Not one American destroyer is hit. Not one suffers a single torpedo strike. Not one is even seriously threatened. The fog that once protected Japan has become the fog that buried them. As dawn creeps over the volcanic peaks of the Solomons, the mist thins just enough to reveal the battlefield. Charred fragments of deck planking drift beside empty life jackets. Oil slicks spread in green and black patches across the sea. Broken masts protrude through the waves like tombstones. Occasionally, a muffled explosion echoes from below as trapped air escapes submerged wrecks. American destroyers slow to survey the scene. Radar sweeps show no more enemy contacts. Sonar displays nothing but the unbroken hum of deep water. The battle is over before most sailors ever understood it had begun. For the Japanese High Command at Rabaul, the reports that arrive in the following days are unbelievable. 4 destroyers sunk, 2 crippled, hundreds of men lost, supplies gone. A reinforcement lifeline severed, and all of it accomplished without the Americans suffering a single casualty. The realization hits with the weight of a nightmare. Night is no longer theirs. Fog no longer shields them. Torpedoes no longer give them the first strike. Radar has rewritten the laws of naval warfare. Vella Gulf becomes the first pure expression of the new American night doctrine: silent approach, radar detection, coordinated torpedo attack, radar-directed gunfire. It is the moment where the United States Navy proves that it can dominate the dark just as completely as the Imperial Navy once did. In the months that follow, Japanese destroyers approach the Central Solomons with fear they never knew before. Every patch of fog becomes a possible ambush. Every empty horizon feels like a trap. Every supply run becomes a gamble, with odds growing worse by the week. And below the waters of Vella Gulf, the wrecks of Hagikaze, Arashi, Kawakaze, and their doomed companions rest in eternal, quiet, rusting bones of a night strike force that never even saw the enemy that killed them. The darkness they trusted betrayed them. The fog they depended on turned against them. And on that night, the United States destroyers proved that the Pacific no longer belonged to Japan. It belonged to radar,